Hey guys! Justin Bieber just made a massive move that's exposing some seriously dark industry secrets. Not only did he unfollow Usher, his original mentor, but he's cutting ties with everyone from his past, including Scooter Braun and his entire team. And trust me, once you understand why he's doing this, it's going to change everything you thought you knew about the industry. Today we're breaking down why Justin really unfollowed Usher and what it means, the disturbing connection to the Diddy lawsuit, how Scooter Braun fits into all of this, the real reason he's cutting off his old team, never before discussed evidence about his early career, and shocking revelations about what really happened when he was younger. Plus, we have exclusive details about what's actually going on behind the scenes that nobody else is talking about. The fact that Justin unfollowed Usher is way more significant than people realize, and the timing of this isn't random at all. Let's break down why this matters and how it connects to everything that's happening right now in the industry. First, we need to understand Usher's role in Justin's life. Back when Justin was just starting out, Usher became more than just a mentor. He was literally the reason Justin got signed. After discovering him on YouTube, Usher moved Justin to Atlanta and took him under his wing. But here's where things get really concerning. This same mentorship pattern is now being questioned because of its connection to Diddy. The lawsuit against Diddy by Lil Rod Jones includes some seriously troubling details. There's this specific footnote about an R&B singer who performed at the Super Bowl and had a successful Vegas residency. That's clearly referring to Usher. The documents describe how Diddy allegedly used access to established artists and industry knowledge to groom younger talents. What's really interesting is how this connects to Usher's own story. He moved to New York to live with Diddy when he was just 14 years old, something he's talked about publicly, calling it puffy flavor camp. Now, looking back at these situations with what we know today, these arrangements are raising serious red flags. Industry insiders are starting to question these mentorship programs and what really happened behind closed doors. This isn't just about one unfollowing. Justin's actions are exposing a much darker pattern in the entertainment industry. He's systematically cutting ties with everyone who was involved in his early career, and when you look at the timeline, it's pretty telling. Remember when Justin first moved to Atlanta? He was surrounded by these powerful industry figures who all claimed to have his best interests at heart. But now we're seeing how these protective relationships might have had a more sinister side. Sources close to Justin say he's been going through intense therapy, processing events from his early career that he's never spoken about publicly. The connection between all these figures is what's really concerning. Usher was mentored by Diddy, then Usher mentored Justin, and this whole cycle of industry guidance kept repeating. But now, with the Diddy lawsuit exposing how these mentorship situations allegedly worked, everything's being seen in a new light. The documents describe a system where younger artists were deliberately isolated from their families and made dependent on these industry father figures. What's particularly alarming is how many other young artists went through similar situations. The lawsuit mentions multiple instances where established artists were used to make younger talents feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Justin's not just unfollowing people, he's breaking away from an entire system that he was part of. The way these relationships were structured is especially troubling. These mentors would often live with their protégés, control their schedules, and have complete access to their lives. Looking back at interviews from that time, you can see how normalized this conduct was. Everyone just accepted that this was how young talents were developed in the industry. Now let's talk about why Justin unfollowed Scooter Braun, because this part of the story is absolutely wild. After being his manager for 15 years, Justin completely cut ties with him, and the timing couldn't be more significant. What's really interesting is how Scooter was always positioned as Justin's protector, the guy who supposedly saved him from the darker elements of the industry. But now sources are saying Justin's questioning everything about those early years. There's this pattern emerging where Scooter would allegedly use Justin's dependency on him to maintain control. Think about it. He was Justin's manager, financial advisor, and even called himself a father figure, all while taking a percentage of everything. The financial aspect of this situation is particularly concerning. Sources say Justin's looking into how his money was managed during those early years. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that passed through various companies and investments. The fact that Justin recently split from Lou Taylor's company, TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group, isn't a coincidence either. Remember, this is the same company that was involved in Britney Spears' conservatorship. But here's where it gets even more intense. Justin's team is apparently considering legal action over alleged financial mismanagement. They're looking into how decisions were made about his money when he was too young to understand what was happening. Multiple sources confirm that Justin's net worth should be significantly higher than it is, raising questions about where all that money went. The way Scooter handled Justin's public image during his struggles is also being re-examined, instead of getting Justin the help he needed. Sources say the focus was always on maintaining his ability to perform and generate revenue. It's like they saw him as a product rather than a person who was clearly crying out for help. Justin's not just randomly unfollowing people, he's methodically cutting ties with anyone connected to his early career, and the order of these unfollows tells us everything. Let's break down the systematic purge because it's way more calculated than people realize. First, he unfollowed his longtime bodyguard, Kenny Hamilton. Now, this might seem random, but Kenny was there during all those early years, witnessing everything that happened. When fans asked Kenny about the unfollow, his response was really telling. He said really have no idea kind of came out of nowhere, but then quickly added that he's always here whenever Justin needs to talk. That last part. Then Justin cut ties with Ryan Good, who started as his stylist but became his best man at his wedding. This is someone who was deeply embedded in Justin's inner circle during those questionable years. Sources say Ryan was often present during meetings with industry executives and at private events where some of these alleged inappropriate situations occurred. The most shocking part is how Justin's handling his father's role in all this. Jeremy Bieber made this strange post about never knowing a parent who wished they didn't have a child right in the middle of all these unfollows. The timing suggests there's some serious family tension about what Justin might be revealing. Sources say Justin's been particularly upset about how his father allegedly enabled certain situations during his early career. What's really significant is how Justin's approaching this whole situation. He's not just distancing himself, he's literally erasing these connections from his digital footprint. We're talking about removing tags from photos, deleting old posts, and even asking platforms to archive certain content. It's like he's trying to completely separate himself from that entire era of his life. The way Hollywood is responding to Justin's actions is really telling. And trust me, people are starting to panic. Industry insiders who've kept quiet for years are suddenly worried about what might come out next. Several former Disney and Nickelodeon executives have quietly stepped down from their positions since these revelations started coming out. While they're claiming it's for personal reasons, sources say there's growing concern about how child stars were handled in the industry. Justin's systematic cutting of ties is making people nervous because he knows where all the skeletons are buried. What's particularly interesting is how other former child stars are reacting. Demi Lovato has been liking and commenting on posts about Justin's situation, suggesting she understands exactly what he's doing. Meanwhile, Selena Gomez has been notably silent, but sources say she's been incredibly supportive of Justin behind the scenes, having witnessed much of what happened during those early years. The legal community in Hollywood is buzzing too. Multiple high-profile entertainment lawyers have suddenly started specializing in historical abuse cases. One prominent attorney, speaking anonymously, said they've seen a surge in former child stars seeking advice about potential cases related to their early careers. It's like Justin's actions have created this domino effect. The record labels are particularly nervous. Universal Music Group has reportedly started an internal review of all their historical contracts with minors. Sources say they're preparing for potential legal challenges about how young artists were managed and protected. There's even talk about creating new industry standards for working with underage talents. The most revealing reaction has come from the old guard of music executives. Many who were powerful figures in the late 2000s have suddenly become very quiet. Some have even hired crisis management teams, despite not being directly named in any current lawsuits. It's like they're preparing for what might come out next. Let's talk about what this all means for the entertainment industry, because Justin's actions are causing a massive shift in how people view these mentorships. The ripple effects are seriously changing everything. Major talent agencies are completely overhauling how they handle young clients. TA and WME have introduced new protocols requiring parent or guardian presence at all meetings. No exceptions. They're even installing security cameras in all meeting rooms and keeping detailed logs of every interaction. This isn't just about protecting the talents anymore. It's about preventing any possibility of inappropriate conduct. The recording studios are making changes too. Universal and Sony have both implemented strict new policies about who can be present during recording sessions with minors. They're requiring multiple adult witnesses at all times and installing transparent doors in studio rooms. Sources say these changes came directly after Justin's team started asking questions about historical recording sessions. Social media platforms are also responding to this situation. Instagram and Twitter have started flagging and reviewing historical posts showing young celebrities in questionable situations with older industry figures. They're particularly focusing on posts that normalized inappropriate relationships between young talents and their mentors. Some platforms are even removing content that could be seen as exploitative. The most significant change is happening in how contracts are structured. Entertainment lawyers are now including specific clauses about mentorship boundaries and protective measures. These Bieber clauses, as they're being called in the industry, explicitly outline what kind of contact is allowed between young artists and their management teams. But here's what's really interesting. Insurance companies that work with entertainment projects are now requiring additional coverage for any production involving minors. They're calling it historical liability coverage, specifically designed to protect against future claims about past conduct. This shows how seriously the industry is taking these revelations. The way this is all affecting Justin personally shows just how deep this industry trauma goes. Sources close to him say he's going through an intense period of healing and reflection, and his actions are way more calculated than people realize. His recent social media activity tells us everything. Before unfollowing these industry figures, Justin was posting a lot about healing and restoration. He shared these really deep messages about finding peace and breaking cycles of abuse. One post specifically mentioned how sometimes the hardest people to cut off are the ones who've been there the longest. That hits different now that we understand what he's referring to. What's really significant is how Hailey's supporting him through this. Unlike previous situations where she'd publicly defend Justin, she's staying quiet but active behind the scenes. Sources say she's been instrumental in helping him process these memories and make these difficult decisions. She's apparently the one who connected him with trauma specialists who specifically deal with former child stars. The way Justin's approaching his music now is telling too. He's completely stepped back from recording, focusing instead on his mental health. Industry sources say he's turned down multiple collaboration offers, especially ones that would put him back in contact with people from his past. He's apparently working on music independently, processing his experiences through songwriting without any industry pressure. His relationship with his faith has also evolved during this process. While he's still deeply spiritual, sources say he's become more discerning about religious mentors and authority figures. This comes after realizing how spirituality was sometimes used to manipulate him in the industry. He's now focusing on personal faith rather than organized religious structures. The most revealing aspect is how he's handling his finances now. Justin's taken complete control of his money for the first time in his career. He's working with an entirely new team of financial advisors who have no connections to his past management. Sources say he's particularly interested in tracking how his money was managed during his early years. This whole situation is changing the entertainment industry in ways nobody expected, and the implications for future child stars could be massive. Let's break down what experts are saying about where this is all heading. Major networks and streaming platforms are completely revamping their policies for working with young talents. Netflix and Disney Plus have introduced mandatory psychological support systems and independent advocates for all underage performers. They're not just doing this to protect the kids, they're trying to prevent another situation like Justin's from exploding years later. The music industry is particularly shaken. Record labels are facing intense scrutiny about their historical practices with young artists. Universal Music Group has started this massive internal investigation, reviewing decades of contracts and relationships with minor performers. Sources say they've uncovered some seriously concerning patterns that could lead to more revelations. Education requirements are getting stricter too. California just proposed new laws requiring entertainment companies to provide comprehensive financial education to any performer under 21. They're calling it the Bieber bill behind closed doors because it directly addresses many of the issues Justin faced with his early career earnings. What's really interesting is how this is affecting current child stars and their families. Parents are becoming way more involved in their kids' careers, demanding transparency and protection that wasn't available before. Some agencies have even created special departments just to handle parent concerns and oversight. The most significant change might be in how mentorship programs are structured. Gone are the days of informal arrangements and private guidance. Everything now has to be documented, witnessed, and monitored. Industry veterans say this is completely changing how young talents are developed, but most agree it's a necessary shift. The legal community is preparing for what they're calling a cascade of revelations. They're expecting more former child stars to come forward with their stories inspired by Justin's bold moves. Some law firms have even created specialized divisions just to handle historical entertainment industry cases. Hey guys, this story is far from over, and based on what industry insiders are telling me, there's so much more coming. The way Justin's systematically exposing these industry practices is just the beginning of a much. Turn on those notifications because this story is developing fast. I've got exclusive interviews coming up with former industry insiders who are finally ready to share what they witnessed. Plus, we'll be diving deep into how these revelations connect to other major Hollywood scandals. Drop your theories below about what you think might come out next. Your insights help us piece together this complex puzzle, and together we're exposing the truth one video at a time.